Welcome to College Football What Ifs. This is the series where we go down the rabbit hole to find the answers to college football's ultimate what ifs. The following program is presented by PSPN. We are always standing by.
Lateral's back and he's got space. The 5. Touchdown, Colorado!
And welcome. My name is Porkins, and we here at PSPN are devoted to answering the tough questions in college football history. Today, we are returning to our ongoing quest to answer the question, what if college football had a playoff? I have sifted through the annals of college football history, and all my research pointed to a singular event. The event where our divergence begins. In the year 1992, college football gave us the Bowl Coalition. The Bowl Coalition was the precursor to the BCS and was the sport's first attempt at creating a national championship game. Before 1992, at the end of the year, the various polling organizations would pick a national champion. But with the institution of the Bowl Coalition, at the end of the year, the top two teams in the AP poll would be pitted against each other in one of the four major bowls: the Cotton, the Fiesta, the Orange, or the Sugar Bowl. The Rose Bowl is noticeably absent from this group, as the Big Ten and the Pac-10 decided not to participate. That would leave 5 major conference champions, Notre Dame, and 2 at-large bids to fill out the 4 bowls. Now, while history just gave us a loose coalition of bowl games with a concerted effort to pair number 1 versus number 2, there were rumblings at the time of the potential for a playoff. By this point in history, all other forms of college football had a playoff, and maybe it was time for Division 1A to follow suit. This is where our quest began, in the year 1992. From here, we would put together an 8-team playoff using the same rules and criteria the Bowl Coalition used to pick their teams. All of this together would lead to the inaugural Bowl Coalition playoff, and all that was left was to determine winners and losers. If you're interested in all the action from the first round of the playoffs, you can take the link at the top to watch it all unfold. But the short of it was this. Number 1 Miami sleptwalked through a 27-16 victory over number 11 Nebraska in the Orange Bowl, as sophomore running back Donnell Bennett would lead the way with 177 rushing yards. Number 5 Notre Dame would knock off undefeated and 4th-ranked Texas A&M 25-20 in the Cotton Bowl. Senior quarterback Rick Meyer threw for 314 yards and a touchdown. Number 6 Syracuse downed number 3 Florida State in the Fiesta Bowl with a phenomenal defensive performance, holding Florida State to 223 total yards and 1 out of 15 on third downs. And finally, number 10 Colorado upset undefeated and 2nd-ranked Alabama in overtime in the Sugar Bowl. Sophomore quarterback Cordell Stewart picked apart the Crimson Tide defense, throwing for 286 yards and 3 touchdowns. This sets up a pair of semifinal matchups: number 1 Miami versus number 5 Notre Dame, and number 6 Syracuse versus number 10 Colorado. Miami and Notre Dame will play in the Orange Bowl Stadium, who will be hosting this year's semifinal. These two teams have hosted numerous games in the last decade, none more famous than the 1988 matchup, which was nicknamed the Catholics vs. Convicts game. Notre Dame would win that matchup 31-30 and proceed to claim their 11th national title. Miami would go on to finish number 2 in the country. These teams were powerhouses in the late 80s and early 90s, and blood would definitely be running hot for this one. Miami, the current defending national champion, should have the upper hand here, though. Look for them to add another win to their current 30-game win streak. It is worth noting that Miami's last loss was in their 1990 defeat at the hands of these Fighting Irish. Syracuse and Colorado will be meeting for the first time in Dallas, Texas at the Cotton Bowl. These teams did meet in the actual 1992 Bowl Coalition, with Syracuse notching a 26-22 victory in the Fiesta Bowl, but this result has to be thrown out. Our alternate dimension has created a different scenario at a different location and therefore potentially a different outcome. Regardless, it should be an exciting matchup with 2 young stars facing off at quarterback, Cordell Stewart and Marvin Graves. Without further ado, let's get to the action. We'll start with the semifinal at the Orange Bowl. Notre Dame and Miami take the field here in beautiful Miami, Florida. Notre Dame in their road whites and Miami in their futuristic oranges. These two powerhouses are ready to get this underway. Let's get to the action. Notre Dame would get the ball to start the game, and they would strike first as well, driving right down the field as Reggie Brooks would punch it in from 5 yards out. On the very next drive, Miami would answer when Gino Torretta would find Horace Copeland in the back of the end zone for the 4-yard touchdown. Torretta found the hole in the zone and fired it in to tie the game up at 7. Notre Dame wouldn't bat an eye at this, though, as they would drive back down the field as Brooks would punch in his second touchdown of the first quarter, this time from 4 yards out. The Notre Dame running game was clicking early in this one, after their poor performance in the Cotton Bowl against Texas A&M. Miami would respond again. This time, Torretta would find Lamar Thomas down the seam for the 24-yard touchdown pass. Both teams were firing on all cylinders in the first quarter, which would end with it all knotted up at 14. On to the second, Miami would strike again as Torretta would find Kevin Williams on 1st and goal, putting Miami up 21-14, giving them the first lead of the ballgame. With time running down in the second quarter, Notre Dame would once again drive into Miami's side of the field. They would have to settle for a field goal, though, as Craig Hentrick would push it through the uprights with only 3 seconds left in the first half. Notre Dame would kick it deep on what would be the last play of the first half as Miami returner Kevin Williams would bring it out of the end zone and head down the left sideline to take the kickoff back 102 yards for the Miami touchdown. Look at those two blocks by the return team to spring Williams for the touchdown. This would give Miami a 28-17 lead to end the second quarter. Notre Dame would not give up, though, as early in the third, with Miami backed up on their own goal line, Notre Dame linebacker Demetrius DeBose would break into the backfield to tackle Miami running back Donnell Bennett in the end zone for a safety. This would make the score 28-19. Later in the third, Notre Dame would finally get their passing game working as Rick Meyer would find Michael Miller, who would make the touchdown grab, beating the tight coverage by the Miami defense. Miller's touchdown would pull Notre Dame within 2, now down 28-26 to end the third quarter. Midway through the fourth, Hentrick would connect from 32 yards out to put Notre Dame back on top, 29-28, with only 4 minutes to go. With the clock running out and Miami held scoreless up to this point in the second half, Torretta would find Lamar Thomas for the 50-yard reception on 1st and 10, with just a little over a minute left. Notre Dame brought the blitz and Torretta made them pay for it, finding Thomas down the right sideline. This would set up Dane Pruitt for the 35-yard field goal attempt as time expired. Pruitt would nail it, sending it right down the middle, giving Miami the 31-29 victory. It was an exciting finish as Miami extends its win streak to 31, and they will be heading out to Texas to play in the first ever Bowl Coalition National Championship game. What more would you expect from a Miami-Notre Dame playoff game? Two of the premier college football teams of the era. This game would have been a spectacle, and every football fan in the nation would have undoubtedly been tuned in to see Miami pull out the last-second win. The player of the game has to be the Heisman Trophy winner, Gino Torretta. Torretta went 22 for 35 for 376 yards and 3 touchdowns. He played nearly flawlessly, protecting the ball and distributing it to his playmakers. He was crowned the best player in college football, and he played like it on the biggest stage college football has ever seen. His top target, the boisterous Lamar Thomas, had a marvelous game on the other end of Torretta's passes. 6 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown. Thomas was dynamic, and as usual, he was not afraid to let Notre Dame know about it. Thomas is the face of Miami, one of the last holdovers of Miami's bad boy phase, and he has the skill to back it up. On the other side of the ball, Notre Dame refused to go away in this one. Down 28-17 at halftime, they held Miami scoreless in the second half until the last play of the game. A valiant effort for sure, spearheaded by their star running back Reggie Brooks. The Heisman Trophy finalists rushed for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. averaging a whopping 8.1 yards per carry. He put his team on his back and nearly carried them over the finish line. Similar to last week against Texas A&M, his running mate Jerome Bettis disappeared in this one though. He accumulated just 17 carries for 38 yards in the 2 playoff games combined. That, along with Rick Meyer's 2 interceptions, was too much for Notre Dame to overcome. You know that this loss would have sat heavily on Coach Lou Holtz's shoulders, as they were mere seconds away from a national championship appearance. But when it's all said and done, Miami and Coach Dennis Erickson are heading out to Arlington, Texas to play in the first ever Bowl Coalition playoff final, riding a 31-game win streak, and they should be confident that they can handle either of the teams they will face 10 days from now on January 11th in Texas Stadium for the 1992 Bowl Coalition Championship game. Now, before we take a look at the other semifinal game, there is another annual New Year's Day game that we have to discuss, the Rose Bowl, and therefore the Big Ten and Pac-10 champions declined to participate in the Bowl Coalition. But as we all know, the AP poll could care less about who wins this playoff. They're going to pick their own national champion regardless of the outcome, and the Rose Bowl will always be a factor that we have to consider. The 1993 Rose Bowl featured 2 top 10 teams, number 7 Michigan at 8-0-3 and number 9 Washington at 9-2. Michigan running back Tyrone Wheatley led the Wolverines to a 38-31 victory in an unbeaten 9-0-3 season. Now, an unbeaten Big Ten Rose Bowl champion would normally be a true national championship contender, but those 3 ties to Notre Dame, Illinois, and Ohio State hang heavily on the Wolverines' chances. We just need to look at the final AP poll, where Michigan was ranked 5th. With all of this combined, we can credibly rule them out and focus on our playoff, where the winner should become the unanimous national champion. This may not always be the case as we move forward, but for this year, our playoff should be free of controversy. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's get back to it and head out to the Cotton Bowl. Syracuse and Colorado take the field here in Dallas, Texas. Both teams know what's at stake tonight as a date with the Miami Hurricanes looms next week. Syracuse would like to avenge their 6-point loss to Miami from earlier this season, while Colorado is still looking to win their 2nd national championship in 3 years. On to the action. Colorado struck first when Cordell Stewart fired a bullet down the right sideline to wide receiver Charles Johnson for a 32-yard touchdown. Stewart came out firing tonight, and he is quickly becoming the story of this playoff. Later in the first, Stewart is at it again as he would find reserve receiver Donnell Liamonte wide open, who would walk into the end zone untouched, giving Colorado the early 14-0 lead. Just a complete breakdown by the Syracuse defense here. Midway through the second, Colorado would extend their lead once again when Stewart would fire a rocket down the middle to wide receiver Michael Westbrook. Westbrook kept both feet in, showing excellent awareness as he hauls in the 19-yard touchdown. They would miss the extra point though, making the score 20-0. Syracuse would finally get on the board when running back Terry Richardson would punch it in from 4 yards out. This would pull Syracuse to within 13, now down 20-7. Colorado would tack on a field goal to make the score 23-7 at halftime. Early in the third, Colorado would get it going again as Rashaan Salaam would put Colorado up 29-7, and the route was on. Colorado would not look back as James Hill would score 2 more touchdowns, and Colorado would put up a whopping 48 points. The final score would end up 48-20 as Syracuse just could not stop Cordell Stewart. Colorado will head to the national championship game to face Miami, in which they are sure to be sizable underdogs. What a performance by the Colorado Buffaloes. This is the look of a team that is peaking at the right time. From the get-go, Colorado was firing on all cylinders. Cordell Stewart has blossomed in front of our eyes in this playoff. He went 27 for 32 for 306 yards and 3 touchdowns. A guy who has been known for his arm strength and athleticism comes in today picking apart the Syracuse defense with accuracy and efficiency. Stewart completed 84% of his passes and was unstoppable. His top target today was undoubtedly wide receiver Michael Westbrook. Westbrook ended the day with 9 receptions for 91 yards and a touchdown. This whole receiving staff got in on the action today, but Westbrook was the cream of the crop. Westbrook is a true NFL talent. The 6'3" receiver with speed and real fluidity about him made the Syracuse DBs look pedestrian. On the Syracuse side of the ball, the lone bright spot was running back Terry Richardson. Playing limited snaps, Richardson made the most of his opportunities, rushing for 140 yards on 14 attempts and had a touchdown. Syracuse's QB Marvin Graves struggled today though. He just couldn't find a rhythm and threw 2 costly interceptions. This Colorado team is playing at a high level and should give Miami all they can handle. Miami will be a sizable favorite, but anyone who is doubting this Colorado team only needs to look at the last 2 performances. This team is for real. Well, that's going to do it for today, but we will be back for the 1992 Bowl Coalition Championship game in a couple weeks with all the action, and we will answer the first step in our quest to determine the ultimate question: what if college football had a playoff? Thank you for watching. I am Porkins, and this has been a PSPN production. Stay safe and don't be like the Heisman Trophy winner. Don't trip over your own players on 4th down. Now that would be embarrassing. We are always standing.